There's a $12.5 billion heist happening right now that is going largely unnoticed, and the FBI and professionals in my industry are doing everything that we can to warn you that you could be a victim of this crime. And once you are, there's almost nothing that can be done to get your money back. Today I'll share with you the story about a buyer who found this out the hard way when they lost nearly $200,000 to a scammer who drained it right out of their bank account. And what makes this even more alarming is that this can happen to anyone, and it is far more common than you might think. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on any of the market updates or interesting interviews or personal stories and tips like this that I'm going to share with you in the future to help keep you informed and entertained. Join me today as I interview one of the industry's leading experts on this topic, and they'll share with you the important steps that you need to take right now to make sure that you avoid becoming a victim of wire fraud. I'm your host, Darren Watson, and you're tuned in to the Utah Realty Review. All right, well, I got a great show planned for you today, but before we get started, I wanted to introduce to you one of the very first sponsors of the Utah Realty Review, Smart Home Incorporated. Now, they're one of the world's largest home automation retailers, and they've made it their mission to go out and search out the best prices on any of the major brands out there, including Ring video doorbells, Insteon automation and security, Nest, and just a whole bunch more. Now, I love my Ring doorbell, but honestly, I wish that I would have known about Smart Home Inc. before I purchased mine, because while I was browsing their site, looking at all the other cool stuff they have, I noticed that the doorbell that I bought was actually cheaper at Smart Home Incorporated than it was on Ring's own site where I bought it. So, unfortunately, I missed out on that deal, but you don't have to. Now, what's really cool is I've actually worked out a special deal with Smart Home Incorporated. They'll give you free installation on any of their kits, so their smart home or their security or their automation, anything like that. They'll send out one of their techs for free. They're professionals to go ahead and put it in for you, so you don't even have to worry about that. You get the best deal possible, and you get free installs. So if you want to go ahead and take advantage of that opportunity, head on over to utahrealtyreview.com/smarthome, and you can take advantage of the offer there. I hope you check them out. All right, let's dig into today's topic. In 2018, the FBI's Internet Crime Division reported that here in Utah, citizens had over $20.6 million stolen in online fraud schemes. Now, there were over $8 million in losses in 2018 from wire fraud, which is actually up from the $5.7 million that were stolen in 2017. So as you can see, this is an escalating issue. I remember actually receiving an email back in 2016 from the Board of Realtors that was warning the agents about this growing problem of wire fraud in the industry and how we all needed to be mindful to make sure that we educate ourselves so that we can keep our clients safe. So what exactly is wire fraud and how can you avoid it? Well, to help answer this question, I invited Ryan Hoskins, an escrow officer here in Utah, and he's also one of the leading voices in the industry who's out there aiming to educate the public and the professionals. So without further ado, let's go ahead and listen to this interview that I did with him. Wire fraud is a serious problem in the real estate industry. There's a lot of people right now losing literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to scammers out there, and we want to talk a little bit about that today. I've invited an expert to come and speak with us on this topic who can help you learn how to avoid these scams and what to look out for. He's been in the industry for almost 2 decades now and been an escrow officer for 16 years. And when he's not helping people close on transactions on their home, he's actually out there training agents and training lenders on the dangers of loan fraud and on wire fraud in particular. And that's actually how we met. So I'd like to introduce Ryan Hoskins. And,
thanks for having me.
I get that right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Before we really get into it, kind of tell me a little bit, how did you get involved in the real estate industry?
So I actually, when I was 21, my next door neighbor owned a real estate company. He came over and said I should come be an agent. And I was like, probably not. Then he came over and he said, I know you like tech stuff. We just started our company about 6 months ago. We need an IT guy. Will you come and be our IT guy and help my wife part-time as an assistant? So I got in kind of through that route and started helping her with her transactions, and then eventually was full-time as an assistant for her, and then we had a baby coming. So I figured I'd probably better get something real stable. So I got introduced to the owner of a title company that was also fairly new and needed some help kind of getting all of their systems set up, and kind of took the same route through their IT side of things, which quickly became full-time, and then eventually through all the different positions until I became an escrow officer.
Okay, so for those of us that aren't familiar, what is an escrow officer? What is it that you do?
So as an escrow officer, we get trained in closing and managing all of the funds and the documents for the end of your transaction. So as a buyer or a seller, you're going to talk with your agent, list your home, go under contract as a buyer, and then potentially make an earnest money deposit with us, and we'll hold on to that until the end of the process, and then your lender sends everything to us. So we become in charge of making sure that the lender's happy, that you're happy, that your agent's taken care of, and so we kind of end up playing the middleman for everybody.
Yeah, I can tell you, working with some good escrow officers has been a lifesaver through some of my transactions. So it's good to hear. So tell us a little bit then about why wire fraud is such a big deal right now in the real estate industry. What is it?
Well, so wire fraud in particular is a bad guy out there getting a hold of someone in, well, as it relates to us anyway, getting a hold of someone in one of our transactions and getting someone, either the title company or potentially you as a buyer, to wire their money for this transaction to the wrong place. So that's what they attempt to do, is to defraud you out of your money, but by posing as someone else in the transaction generally.
So how do you know if you're being targeted?
That's the problem that we are running into a lot, is that it's becoming harder and harder to tell. The first instance that I heard of in Utah of wire fraud, some sellers closed. The title company, I believe, got a phone call from someone who said, "Hey, I'm that seller. I want you to wire the funds to my business account instead of my personal account." And so $40,000 got wired to a different account. And I'm not 100% sure if it was a phone call or an email, but that was quickly nipped in the bud by all title insurance companies. And everybody said, you know what? No more will we accept instructions for wires by phone. We have to be able to verify that the person giving us those instructions is the person who really deserves that money. So that became harder for them to do. So now they try and insert themselves into the email chain. Email is fairly reliable as long as you're doing it right, but can also be a real spot of vulnerability where they can pose as someone else, and you may be able to notice certain things, but you may not. So it's becoming trickier. The more sophisticated they get, we have to be more and more cautious on our end.
So as far as the emails go, what are some things that you're looking for, signs that maybe this is suspicious or that they need to be cautious?
So if I was buying a house, I think the number one thing that I would watch for is, am I expecting that email? You know, in the title company, we get lots and lots of emails from other title companies, from agents, from loan officers. If I get an email that says regarding your transaction, but doesn't identify the transaction at all, no names, no addresses, no anything, I'm really suspicious. And so then at that point, I'll look at who's sending it, see if I recognize the person. And if I know that person and know they were going to send me something, then I feel more safe opening it. If I don't recognize the person, I'll check that the email address matches, because I've had them before. They purport to be someone from another title company, but the email address is an email address at .uk, which is from the United Kingdom. So I go through kind of a series of steps to go, is this an email I should open, and should I open that attachment?
So one thing that you had mentioned in the class is that the scammers, when they're spoofing these emails and making it look like it's coming from either the agent or the lender or the title agency, that they will, like you were saying, leave it very vague, but then also remove any identifiers as far as like the phone number or return address or any way of contacting to verify that. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And I've had people who were involved in transactions we're doing get emails that the signature line on that email is almost exactly what my signature line is if I email you. But like you said, they took my phone number off and my email off, so that if you got it and were suspicious, you don't at hand have my phone number to call me. The other thing is, they don't really even have to be hacked into anybody's email to get my email signature. I mean, I send out hundreds of thousands of emails a year. So it's out there. So just because it has a signature from someone you recognize doesn't mean it's from them.
Shifting gears a little bit here, tell us a little bit, what are some of the misconceptions about wire fraud and what it is, how it's perpetrated?
I think from a consumer's standpoint, my biggest myth that I would say they need to be aware of is that just happens to other people, that I don't have to worry about it, because anybody could fall a victim to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for 99% of us, buying your home is the biggest transaction you're going to do in your life. You're probably going to spend a good chunk of your life savings on it. And so it's worth a little bit of extra effort just to be sure that you're safeguarding that information and only giving it to the right people.
In the class, you actually mentioned a case where a buyer had wired almost $200,000 to a fraudster and ended up losing that money. Can you tell us a little bit about that situation, what happened?
Absolutely. So in that particular situation, this buyer wasn't actually even represented by the agent. He just found a home. He was an investor, went to the agent who had it listed, went under contract, and that agent, in an effort to be helpful, tried to kind of guide him through the process, as most agents will. They're really helpful people. We want to earn the money that we say we're worth, you know? So, so at one point in the transaction, he asked for, how much do I need to bring to closing and where should I send that? This particular agent didn't realize that her email had been compromised. She had at some point gotten those phishing emails with PH that asked her to click on a link and log into her email to verify something or something along those lines, and she had done that. And it may not have even really changed anything about her email, except for the fact that now the bad guys had access to it. So they could actually log into her email account and send emails on her behalf.
So to sidestep for just a second there, you mentioned phishing, and just to kind of clarify a little bit about what that is it the actual, when you get that scam email, is it the link, when you click it, is that the issue, or is there something else?
Generally, you're going to have to do more than just click on the link. Generally, what they'll do is, a lot of the ones that I've seen, if you hit the link, it tells you that you need to log into like your mail server. And it may even bring up a login that looks just like your Gmail or your Outlook.com or one of those logins, and you recognize it. So you're like, oh, email, password, and then either it doesn't take you in there or something weird happens and you're like, oh, I won't worry about it. But what happened was, it was actually a page that they had. And so when you put that information in, it sends it to them and says, hey, here's this person's username and password for their email.
And so at that point, from my understanding, they don't even have to create a fake email to send out to whoever. They can actually email from your address and it'll be completely legitimate.
Correct. And that was what happened in this case. The agent didn't realize that the bad guys had access to her email. So the client, well, the guy who wasn't even her client, got an email from her that said, here's where to send your funds and here's how much. And it was legitimately the closing statement.
Wow.
It was wire instructions that looked like they were from the title company, but they were for the bad guys. And so he ran to the bank, and the bad guys pushed him, encouraged him to go to the bank. They said, hey, I need you to wire those funds in advance of your closing, so can you go to the bank? And he did, and ended up, I think it was like $197,000 that he lost.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was the ultimate outcome on that? Was he able to get that money back?
As far as I've been able to dig up, they went all the way to court, and in this particular instance, I believe the title company settled, but the agent didn't, until they got to deposition, didn't realize she had done anything wrong. She thought that everything was fine, and she was like, why are you suing me? The title company sent you bad instructions, and you wired the money somewhere else. And at the deposition, they said, well, this email came from your email address. And so she fought it, and the jury said, you're a professional. You should secure your email such that people getting emails from you can trust them and know they're secure.
Wow.
So that one is a wake-up call to agents and title companies and loan officers that you better be careful.
Yeah, no kidding. So kind of on that note, along those lines, what is the industry doing right now to help combat this?
So there's a couple of really big movements. The Board of Realtors has recently approved a document that they ask every agent to send out that's a wire fraud form. So if you're dealing in a real estate transaction, you're going to get something from your agent you'll probably get something from your loan officer, and you'll get something from your title company that says wire fraud's on the rise, be careful, double check everything. Some of the other things that we've adopted is we tell the real estate agent, look, don't have that conversation with your client. I know you love to be helpful, Darren. Tell them to call me about wires. I will talk to them. I will be the one responsible for getting them their wire instructions, and it takes you out of that loop. One less step for the bad guys to be able to insert themselves. And then the other one that I really think is the most important is your real estate agent should tell you at the beginning who your escrow officer is, give you their contact info. And then when it's time to wire funds and you get to the bank, take the 30 seconds and pick up the phone and call your escrow officer. Say, I need to verify before I send my, even if it's 5,000, who's got $5,000 to spare, you know? My 5,000 bucks needs to go, is this the right info? Cool, I'm going to walk into the bank and send you your money. And then you can be confident that you know that's going to the title company and you're going to be okay. Because for a bad guy to intercept a wire from your bank to the title company, if you've given them the right instructions, won't happen. It's an automated system, goes through the Federal Reserve. They're all identified by routing numbers. It gets where it needs to go.
Good.
It's when you give them the wrong instructions that the problem is.
So just kind of an example on this, I've set up a two-step verification on my email, and I'm glad I did because I ended up having somebody try to hack into my email, which I use for all of my transactions, and I was able to get a notification saying, hey, is this you? And I'm looking at it going, nope, not in that state. So I was able to cancel that, go in, change all my passwords and reset, and hopefully avoid any kind of issues like this. So that's something I can do from my end. What about the buyers and sellers out there, the people that aren't professionally in this industry every day? What can they do to protect themselves besides making that phone call?
Two-factor authentication is actually really easy to set up. And even if you don't use your email for business like we do, I would totally go set that up. Just for whatever personal information you get, you know, if you file your taxes through TurboTax and they email you a copy of your taxes, it's got your social on it. Secure your email. Treat it like it's really valuable, and the two-factor authentication is like you said. Someone tries to log in as me, I get a text on my phone, and I can say, nope, that wasn't me. And that will prevent that person from getting in. And then also, I know it's super inconvenient, but change your passwords. Because if a bad guy, let's say you accidentally click something, had a brain dead moment, and you accidentally gave them your info, if you change your password 6 months later, they don't have your info anymore. So that can help eliminate the, did I accidentally let someone in? Well, this will lock them back out.
Now, you did mention something that would not work by changing passwords, that there was a case where one of these scammers had accessed the email account and then set up some sort of an automated...
a forwarding.
Yeah, forwarding. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we actually had one of the people in my company got one of those weird emails, went ahead and set it up, and then we noticed at one point, I can't remember how it came to our attention, but we noticed that there were weird emails that she didn't recognize that we would see either in her sent items or that would come back from clients. And so we went in Outlook, you set them up as rules. So I can set up a rule when I'm out of the office to forward all my emails to my assistant. But you can be more detailed than that. I can say any email that is from XYZ title company that I know this agent works with, forward those to me and then delete them from their inbox so they don't even know they got them.
Wow.
So you can be real nefarious. Those take a little more doing and can be a little more obvious, because if you know what to look for, I go into my rules and I'm like, I didn't set that rule up. I don't know what that is. You know. But yeah, those can be a way. And when we found that one, I decided to try and play detective and see what I could do. So from my personal email, I sent one to her that said payoff in it, because one of his triggers was payoff. And for the next 2 months, I got 10 or 15 notifications a day that someone was trying to log into my email account.
Wow.
Which confirmed to me that that's exactly what they were looking for. They wanted to be me and send an email to her and say, wire my payoff here, and take the payoff that I didn't really have. But
so that's incredible. So what do you do in that situation where you know somebody's trying to hack you?
And sadly, there wasn't really much that I could even do, because the way my two-factor authentication works is, I have to put in my password, and they didn't have my password, but when they try and log in as me, it does the two-factor. So over and over, I would just have to go, no, that's not me. no, that's still not me. No, that's still not me. Leave me alone. You know.
Wow.
Luckily, they finally gave up. But
Before we wrap up here, is there anything else maybe that I should have asked that you may want the audience to know?
I think that probably the most important thing is ask your agent the questions. Hey, do you secure your emails? I hear wire fraud is a big thing. What do you do to protect my information? Because a great agent will have two-factor authentication set up, will work closely with their title company to ensure that your information is safe. Because at the end of the day, again, it's your biggest transaction. So don't be afraid to ask your agent what they're doing to protect your info, because a good agent worth their salt is going to have great answers for you as soon as you ask those questions. Question everything. When you're ready to wire money and getting involved in a big transaction where you're communicating personal information and whatnot, question everything. If you get an email with wire instructions, call your agent and say, hey, I just want to verify that you talked to the title company and these are right. Make the phone call to your escrow officer.
Yeah, that's my same sentiment. I've always told people, don't be afraid to give me a call if you have a question. That's what I'm here for.
Absolutely.
And same
Absolutely.
for anybody else involved in the transaction. Lastly, is there anywhere where people can go if they want to learn more about this topic, any resources they might be able to use?
Yeah, I know that the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, has a lot of information online about protecting your privacy and protecting your personal information. The FBI actually has an Internet Crimes Task Force that you can go to their website and kind of see what is going on out there and learn kind of how to protect yourself. But in general, don't click on a link, don't open an attachment if you aren't sure who it's from, and ask those questions, and it should be great.
Good. Well, hopefully everybody stays safe.
Yeah.
Again, Ryan, thanks for coming today.
Hey, absolutely.
I really appreciate you being here and giving us some good advice.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Well, I had a lot of fun with that interview, and I was excited to be able to bring Ryan in here to discuss this issue. And as I was researching this topic, I came across another story that I wanted to share that I think goes right in line with what we were talking about. This was a scam that happened right here in Utah, where there was an email sent to an elderly couple from their real estate agent. Turns out it wasn't actually the agent, but they thought it was. And they sent over, this scammer sent over wire instructions to this couple and said, with a note on the instructions, hey, I'm going to be in a workshop all day today, so don't try and contact me or call me. Which obviously, now that you've had a chance to learn about wire fraud, you know this is a big red flag. But unfortunately for them, they didn't know this at the time. The really sad thing about this is that couple, they did not recover their funds, and they actually had to go to their friends and family to help fundraise the amount that they needed for their down payment to buy the home. So, yeah, terrible, sad story, and I don't want to see that happen to anybody else. Now, because I am so concerned about this issue, I've taken a couple of steps of my own to make sure that you're safe when you're working with me. Now, if you've ever received an email from me, you're going to notice on the bottom of that email, I have a warning that I send out every time I send an email. And that warning says, fraud warning. I will not send you wire instructions via email. If you receive instructions from me, you must call to verify the instructions are correct. Do not wire funds without talking to me in person or on the phone first. I will always call to verify it with you ahead of time. And as we covered with Ryan, if you receive instructions, whether it's from me or from somebody else during a transaction, you should always verify that those instructions are actually coming from that person. And the best way to do this, especially since you're dealing with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line, is to pick up the phone, make a call and say, hey, was this you? Is this account the correct account for me to send it to? And just double check, verify it. It could literally save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, no matter how careful you are, unfortunately, sometimes people still become a victim. It happens. And now, if you do find yourself in that situation where you've been caught up in one of these scams, even if you haven't wired the funds, here are the steps that you need to take once you've figured this out. First, you need to inform everyone involved. Let the lender, the title agent, your broker, everybody, let everybody know that, hey, I've received this scam email or this looks suspicious, and make sure that they can go through and check their accounts, check their other clients, and make sure that nothing has been hacked on their end or is going out to anybody else. Now, the unfortunate thing is if you did already wire your funds, you do need to immediately call your bank. That you might be able to stop that wire from transferring. So if you have caught this and you've already sent that wire, call your bank immediately and let them know. They might be able to stop it. And it's unlikely, but it might happen. Now, of course, you need to go ahead and make a report with the FBI as well. They might not be able to recover your money, but it might help prevent somebody else from having to suffer with this issue as well. Now, there is one more thing that you need to do. You also need to file a complaint with the link that I've established here, and I'll also put that in the description below. This helps the government track wire fraud and really helps them crack down on it. I do as much as I can to safeguard my clients and their information by using those complex passwords, rotating them out from time to time, and then using that two-step verification. And I recommend that you do the same. Even if you're not in this profession, it's a great idea to have it because you have sensitive information that goes through your email and you don't want people getting scammed. Now, of course, these are the things that I'm doing to make sure that you avoid these scams. But if you're working with somebody else, whether it's your title agent or your lender or your broker, your agent, or whoever it is, ask them, what are you doing to prevent fraud and wire fraud in the industry? How are you safeguarding my information to make sure that I'm not scammed? Good questions to have. It's, like I said, a growing issue, something you definitely should be aware of and add into your interview questions when you're looking for a professional. Now, if you felt like this was useful and you'd like to see more of this type of content in the future, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and I will send you out the next episode as soon as it comes out here in the next week or two. Make sure you go ahead and check out Smart Home Incorporated. Great sponsor. Again, awesome products. I love all the gadgets that they have. Take advantage of that free installation that you get just by knowing me. And to do that, go ahead and go over to utahrealtyreview.com/smarthome. Well, until next time, have a good one.